You might be seeing headlines lately about settler violence. Well, I've been speaking out against the manipulated campaign of settler violence for years. With it returning to the headlines due to what happened over Shabbat here in Israel, I want to provide a truly comprehensive overview of the issue for people to better understand beyond the headlines. I personally know many hilltop youth, many of these young settlers, and that includes guys and girls, not just teenage boys. Not from afar, but from up close, while serving in IDF uniform in this war patrolling the Judean hills, Judea and Samaria. Yes, many are young teenagers. Some come from broken homes, some come from amazing homes. Some push boundaries. Many are not even from Judea and Samaria. But they do not hate the IDF. They proudly serve in the IDF when they reach draft age. Sometimes, some of their actions of individuals go too far. And anyone who does so must be punished for doing so. But the rare mistakes of a few do not justify branding via the media an entire movement of modern-day Maccabees literally on the front line of the Jewish people in the land of Israel as violent extremists or terrorists. It's insane. I've met them, I've spoken with them, I've spent Shabbatot alongside them, and I've even experienced tense encounters with them during my IDF service as a soldier. Why tense? Because there's a built-in friction between a structured army operating under strict orders and constraints, especially legal constraints, and fearless, idealistic teenagers who have chosen to live unarmed on isolated hilltops surrounded by hostile Arab Muslim villages where the IDF often has limited operational freedom. The army, armed and reactive, arrives after threats. These youth, without weapons, live proactively, herding sheep, planting crops, building communities, establishing a Jewish presence where no one else dares, creating deterrence and saving land the state of Israel has abandoned in Judea and Samaria. These youth do the very things the army cannot and too often will not do. Many of these hilltop youth teenagers have a level of responsibility and discipline that most parents would dream of for their teenagers to have, all while they are still teenagers doing teenage stuff. But especially in this war, while patrolling and defending Judea and Samaria, I've witnessed firsthand who they are: fearless, principled, and proud young Jews risking their lives every day, not for fame, not for pay, not to be influencers on Instagram, but putting their lives on the line for the Jewish people in the land of Israel. These young pioneers are not violent criminals or terrorists. It's insane. They are the front line of Jewish resilience. They live in caravans or self-built homes on remote hills surrounded by Arab Muslim villages, cultivating the land of Israel with agriculture, herding sheep and goats, patrolling in the middle of the night without weapons, and planting a Jewish presence in the empty lands of Judea and Samaria to stop the dangerous land grab of the Palestinian Authority Fayyad plan that has encroached around many, many Jewish villages and towns in Judea and Samaria, endangering our lives over the years. Many of these hilltop youth go where the IDF hardly goes. They protect lands to act as a deterrent force where Jews are murdered in terror attacks, where Arab Muslim enemies plan ambushes, and where everyday terror attempts are thwarted, not by the drones or intelligence of the army, but by Jewish teenagers watching the hills. And yes, every once in a while, acting like Middle Easterners and making an Arab Muslim village pay a price for the terror that emanates from their residents. That may unsettle Western sensibilities, but in reality, when terror attacks from certain Arab Muslim villages in Judea and Samaria threaten Jewish lives day after day, and the IDF does not stop those terror attacks against Jews who are being routinely stoned, wounded, or even murdered just for driving the roads home or driving to a hospital to give birth to a baby. Yes, a mother and kid and child in her belly were murdered in a terror attack like that. It is the vigilante response of the hilltop youth that creates the only deterrence. Because, like it or not, in the Middle East, deterrence is not built on restraint. It's built on fear of consequences. Something the IDF is held back from doing properly day after day in Judea and Samaria to truly protect us. So, with no weapons, these hilltop youth cultivate the land, herd sheep and goats, and establish a Jewish presence in the vacant stretches of Judea and Samaria, areas the Palestinian Authority has been aggressively stealing from us for years through the Fayad plan. The presence of these hilltop youth on these farms and outposts is critical, especially in regions where the IDF barely operates, or only operates because the hilltop youth are there. These hilltop youth patrol the hills, sometimes in coordination with the IDF, and sometimes uncoordinated, serving as human deterrents in places where Jews are routinely ambushed, stoned, and yes, unfortunately, even murdered. We live in a reality that daily terror attacks go unreported in the media, daily attacks that the IDF operations today are not always able to stop. They stop some, but not all. Hence, on rare occasions, these hilltop youth respond like Middle Easterners, delivering a price tag to villages that terror emanates from. It may make Western sensibilities uncomfortable, but this is the Middle East. And when a known village constantly has terrorists who continuously commit terror attacks that kill or injure innocent Israelis just driving home, or to a hospital to deliver a baby, yes, a mother on her way to the hospital, and her newborn that was taken out of her after she was killed and pronounced death, that's a terror attack. These hilltop youth make the headlines when sending that village a message that today's IDF is not able to make. It is also imperative for people to understand that the libel of settler violence is not based on reality. It is a deliberate, strategic smear campaign. It's been pushed for years by left-wing NGOs in Israel, funded by foreign European governments, designed to delegitimize Jewish presence in Judea and Samaria and to push the failed two-state solution. This is all documented meticulously in the Regavim organization's latest report titled False Flags and Real Agendas. Just Google it or click on the link in the text in the comment below. Now, let's deal with the incident that made the news from this past Shabbat. The irony is overwhelming. Follow this. When the IDF is accused of killing Arab Muslims, whether in Judea and Samaria or even in Gaza, during this war in Gaza, the IDF almost always either immediately issues apologies and or promises thorough investigations to then update the world. But on Friday night, when a 14-year-old unarmed Jewish boy was shot by live fire by an IDF officer without warning, the IDF spokesperson's unit rushed out a press release at 1:30 a.m. in the middle of the night, blaming the hilltop youth for violence within minutes. That then drove a whole media campaign calling these youth terrorists and settler violence against us all. Then over the next 24 hours, the IDF spokesperson's unit had to continuously retract statements, make new statements, totally contradictory, all while a thorough investigation still has not been finished, as I produced this video on Thursday. There have been plenty of various pieces of information, but the IDF still does not know exactly what happened and who and why is responsible for a 14-year-old Jewish boy getting shot at by live fire, even though he was unarmed. Something that should never, ever happen. Yet the media campaign against settler violence and calling these hilltop youth terrorists was fierce from the moment we woke up on Sunday morning and continues to be fierce today, later in the week. And then, just as public outrage began to spread over the unjustifiable use of live fire against a 14-year-old Jewish boy unarmed, suddenly headlines shifted. Reports surfaced claiming that these hilltop youth had torched and destroyed an IDF security building, which sounds weird. Overnight, the narrative flipped. Instead of focusing on the fact that an IDF force opened fire on an unarmed Jewish teenager, the media and political establishment redirected public anger at these young Jews, accusing them of vigilantism and attacking the IDF, the very institutions meant to protect us. Now, if some youth are truly responsible for these horrible, wrong acts, they must be arrested and held accountable, no question. But here we are, it's already Thursday, and not a single arrest has been made. They don't know who did it. So, do I believe these hilltop youth actually did that burning arson at the security compound? I don't know, and here's why. I've been exposing the manipulative tactics of the Shabbat's intelligence Jewish division since the 1990s. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a documented pattern. For decades, the deep state have manufactured provocations and events to demonize the right-wing religious settler community. They've embedded undercover agents, some of whom went so far as to even marry women and raise families in Judea and Samaria, all trying to be undercover, all to infiltrate and undermine our communities in Judea and Samaria from within, as if we were an enemy population. The most infamous example, Avishai Raviv, code name Champagne by the Shabbat. Raviv was a Shabbat agent who orchestrated violent scenes with Jewish settler youth only to film them and spread them through national news outlets in Israel, painting settler youth as extremists, using violence against Arabs, and intent on killing former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. At a right-wing protest, Raviv personally held up Nazi-themed posters of Rabin in an SS uniform that to this day the mainstream media blames Netanyahu for. That the media claimed this proved settlers and right-wing were inciting murder against Rabin. Well, Avishai Raviv was the handler also of Yigal Amir, and despite his central role in so many events surrounding the incitement and eventual assassination of former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, the justice system made sure that Raviv walked away untouched. No accountability, no punishment. This is all public record. Then there's the infamous case of the Jewish teenager imprisoned for allegedly murdering an Arab Muslim baby by setting fire to a home in the Arab Muslim village of Duma a number of years ago. From the beginning, there was no concrete evidence proving that this young Jewish boy infiltrated the heart of an Arab village in the dead of night in Judea and Samaria to commit arson that led to the death of the baby. What is well documented, however, is a long history of internal Arab clan violence within that village of Duma. Violent Arab feuds that included torching each other's properties. Yet despite the lack of proof against the Jewish youth, and despite the broader context being completely ignored about the feud within the Arab clans in that village who used violence against one another, even arson, that Jewish teen was convicted and remains in prison to this day, broken physically and emotionally. A scapegoat for a deep state agenda within our security and legal establishment, determined to delegitimize the right-wing religious settler population as violent and terrorists, yet not to seek truth. And it's exactly because of instances like these why I question the stories being pushed today about what happened this past Shabbat with the boys and the security compound. The manipulation hasn't stopped. It's just gotten more sophisticated over the years in order to push the horrible settler violence campaign. So I do not believe every news item and headline that delegitimizes the right-wing religious secular population and these hilltop youth. As one security coordinator from a nearby settlement said about the hilltop youth after the incident on this past Shabbat, and I quote, "They cause chaos sometimes, yes, but nothing comes close to their effectiveness against Arab terrorism. The Arabs in the village of Al-Mughyair aren't scared of the army, but they are terrified of these hilltop youth," end quote. The security coordinator gets called out on Shabbatot during holidays and even admits that they've been reckless at times. But then he said something powerful, and I'm quoting him, "Donate to them, because these hilltop youth are securing the land of Israel. No IDF brigade has liberated more land in Israel since the Yom Kippur War than these hilltop youth have done in order to protect all of Israel," end quote. That's the truth few are willing to say out loud. These youth are the spiritual heirs of those who built Tel Aviv, Degania, Hebron, and all the rest of the built up in the land of Israel. Even commanders in the army who work with the hilltop youth admit they patrol more than we do. They alert us to suspicious activity. We coordinate where they place farms to create security buffers with the violent Arab Muslim villages. We even send engineering equipment to open roads for them sometimes, end quote. In one sector, the IDF literally gave these hilltop youth radios, food, and other equipment. Why? Because many in the IDF know the truth. These youth are doing important work that helps the army. And yet, this past Shabbat, a battalion commander panicked, lost control, and a 14-year-old Jewish teenager was shot with live fire by an IDF soldier, officer. And instead of waiting for the investigation to be completed, we are experiencing a blitz of media activity and statements blaming the very youth who have been protecting our land. And let me remind you, We are coming up to the 20-year anniversary of the peaceful protest march that ended at an Israeli community called Kfar Maimon. I was there on that march. I was in Kfar Maimon. We were on our way marching to Gush Katif, Gaza, in order to stop the disastrous Gaza disengagement, that I call expulsion, that we were warning would turn Gaza into a terror launching pad by expelling the 10,000 Jews and destroying the 21 Jewish communities. Thousands of us, peaceful Jewish protesters at the time, including families and children of all ages, were stopped by the IDF and police forces in the middle of the night and then corralled like cattle into the fenced-in community village of Kfar Maimon. We were stuck there for 3 days, forbidden from continuing our march to Gaza because we were surrounded by IDF and police forces around the village. The police commander in charge of that operation against us, peaceful protesters, his name was Niso Shacham, and he was recorded on camera telling the troops to use violence against us, all peaceful protesters, that included mothers, babies, children, grandparents, if we would dare continue to march outside of the village. And there's video of this exchange. You could just Google it and YouTube it, Niso Shacham, Kfar Maimon. Back then they created stories about us and labeled us enemies of peace to create the public support against us. Today, the new label is settler terrorists, settler violence. Well, during the protest movement against the Gaza disengagement in 2005, the deep state didn't even need any cases of physical violence. They weaponized the narrative in the media, and that was enough, without any facts. They deliberately spread the lie at the time that the religious right-wing settler community was preparing to use firearms and shoot at IDF soldiers to stop the Gaza disengagement. I was there in Gaza when those headlines dominated the news. It was a deliberate, despicable smear campaign against fellow Jews designed to demonize an entire population to manipulate support for the Gaza disengagement. It was totally demoralizing, understanding that so many Israelis and Jews worldwide were falling for that libelous campaign against us. In response, the Jewish residents of Gaza did something unbelievable and unprecedented. They publicly, in a PR event, handed over all their legally owned weapons and IDF-issued weapons back to the IDF, not out of fear, but to send a clear message to the media and the public that the accusations in the media were baseless and despicable. It was a powerful act of moral clarity in the face of a coordinated media campaign to delegitimize and vilify us, and it left all these residents defenseless because they used those guns to work with the IDF to provide protection, and then they handed all their guns in. Well, the same playbook time after time is what we witness. The same lies, and each time too many people fall for it. Enough! Many of us know too much. We've seen too many false flag attacks, false flag operations orchestrated by the Jewish division of the Shabbat together with the legal deep state establishment over the years, including the recent leaked recordings of the current head of the Jewish division of the Shabbat intelligence ordering the police chief to make arbitrary arrests of hilltop youth without any evidence of wrongdoing. He literally, and this is recorded by the police chief, he's told them, arrest them and throw them into jail without any proof. Until recently, the Shabbat and police routinely targeted these hilltop youth, and not just youth, even as adults as well, arresting them without due process, jailing them for months, and even issuing draconian administrative orders banning them from anywhere in Judea and Samaria altogether. Fathers were torn away from their families, husbands barred from their homes for months or even years without trial or evidence, treated as enemies simply for being proud ideological Jews living in our ancestral homeland, Judea and Samaria. Thankfully, this abuse is finally being stopped by current Defense Minister Israel Katz, who has put an end to these administrative detentions. A shameful persecution by the security establishment all these years against Jews with no proof of wrongdoing. And it could be that this whole settler violence campaign is about trying for the security establishment to get those administrative detentions back. The goal has always been the same: push their deep state agenda against us by demonizing the Jews who dare to build and defend the land and give them rights to put us down. The hilltop youth today are not the problem. They are the raw, beating heart of our national revival. They deserve guidance, support, and yes, accountability when some of them do acts that shouldn't be done. But overall, as a community, they are heroes, misunderstood, imperfect, but irreplaceable. And it's time we stop scapegoating the most devoted teenagers of Israel today before they become holy IDF soldiers. And we start seeing them for what they are, the front line of Jewish destiny. Ultimately, this campaign by the deep state is happening because they know that we, proud Jews, all over Israel, especially in Judea and Samaria, we are winning. We are never leaving Judea and Samaria. The Jewish identity state of Israel is growing day by day. We continue strengthening our presence in our ancestral homeland, and no manipulative, delegitimizing campaign against settler violence will stop us. So keep things in perspective. Don't believe the lies and manipulation in the media. Contact me if you want to know the truth, and hold your head up high. We should all have so much pride in these youth and these farms and outposts and these teenagers holding down the fort literally across Judea and Samaria, the front line protecting all of Israel, the Jewish people, and the whole freedom-loving world. Am Yisrael Chai. If you are not yet a subscriber to our daily, belief-based, inspiring, politically incorrect, truthful videos about Israel, the Jewish people, and the freedom-loving world, what are you waiting for? Go to pulseofisrael.com and click to subscribe today. And yes, we are a donor-based operation. We need your donations for support in order to make these videos and get our videos seen and do all the work we do. So every once in a while, whether a large donation or a small donation, just go to pulseofisrael.com and click on the donate button. Shalom, everyone, and thanks for watching.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.